Welcome, everybody. I'm Rick DiClemente. This is my partner, Liza Jane Brown, and we're here to do it to you tonight. We're in this little series recently of talking about how heavy the planets are right now. And we just went through several weeks of talking about how they're particularly heavy, and we still haven't got it right. And in my mind, nobody's getting it right yet. And that's because the Eris Pluto square is getting closer. And we talked a lot about the difficulty of it. And I turned my gaze to Liza, who's such an excellent writer, and asked her 2 weeks ago to format a talk for us in her own fashion, because she's much more idealistic than I am, and she's much more optimistic. And you'll find her talk tonight's going to be very moving, because it's all about what we can do. What we can do. We don't have to look at this time period as just dark. And I hope you're inspired tonight by her words. I'm going to turn it over to you now. If you need help, just yell for help.
Okay. It's very, very good to be here tonight. Thank you, Rick, for asking me to be on the show. I want to say that I don't feel that I'm necessarily the best person in this group to do this show, because I think you all care and are doing things in your own way and are activists in your own way. But I'm glad to be here to tell my story and to share some examples with you of things and people that have really inspired me. So I'm just going to start off with telling you that I'm retired now from my career as what was mostly as a hospice social worker. And most people, when you say that, their eyes get really big and they say, oh, it takes a special person to do that kind of work. And I don't feel that it necessarily takes a kind of special person to do that kind of work. I do think that I made a difference in people's lives while I was doing that. And that's what we're talking about, making a difference, whether with one person or a small group or the planet. I think you really need to be kind to do that kind of work, which I know all of you are. I think you have to have a sense that there's some type of reality beyond physical death. And I think the most important things you need beyond that is the ability to be patient and open your heart and listen. I just found that if you do that, because again, I'm very shy and I'm very nervous about talking to people, even one-on-one, as I mostly did with one-on-one people and families then. But I found, and this is a lot to do with the meditation work I do and with my study of Buddhism, but I learned that if you are just patient and calm and in that space, if there's a right thing to say, it's going to happen. It's going to just come up naturally. And that was just like, that really, really made a difference in the work that I did with people. And so I don't know if any of you are in that place where you get nervous talking to people in tough situations, but if you can find that stillness, the right thing to do and say is just going to come up. So that applies to everything. So even though I did hospice social work for a long time, it's really only been in the last few years that I've really started to feel comfortable at all speaking up, speaking my piece and wanting to get involved with things. And that really happened for me after Trump won the presidential election in 2018, because I was just so freaked out about that whole thing. And I didn't know what to do. So I had called an old friend that I used to work with. We had bumped into each other from time to time, but I called him and I said, what are we going to do about this? And he said, well, we can start a group. So we did. That was in 2018. We had our first meeting after Trump was elected, the month after that. And we started a group called the New Deal Democrats of Fayette County, which is in Pennsylvania where we live. And we've been meeting ever since that time. We have, I mean, the people who come to meetings and do things kind of expands and contracts, but we've done some pretty interesting things over the years since then. We usually meet monthly. During the height of COVID, that was on Zoom, but we're trying to get back now to meeting in person, which really is a nice thing. But we've had, you know, all kinds of, we did voter registration activities. We've done get out the vote activities. We've done some meetings where we had candidates come and speak in debates. We've had, what else have we done? Just information meetings about really serious local issues. We have done all of those things and more. We've had picnics and been part of different festivals and things in the area, do the county fair. And the one thing that I want to tell you again about that is that I was actually, we have, I don't know how other states are, but we have in Pennsylvania elected representatives to the state house and the state senate. And there wasn't a Democratic candidate running for my district. And I just decided that I was going to run for that office. I can't believe I did that, but I did. And I didn't win, but it was a wonderful experience in participating in how democracy works. And if I did that, you know, anybody here can do something like that. So one of the great things that happened was I attended a meeting for Democratic candidates, and I actually got to stand on stage and talk with John Fetterman, yay, one of my heroes. And that was a great experience. So this election season, which we're in now, we've had our primary in Pennsylvania already, and one of the candidates that won the primary for the Democratic for a seat on the Fayette County Commission is an old friend of mine from the New Deal Democrats, and he's an extremely qualified person for that job. He really has a heart, and he is able to make connections between what happens in that county commissioner's office and how that affects rural people in the county. So I'm working hard on his campaign, and that requires me to put myself out there too. So you can see that I've been kind of an activist over the past couple of years.
Before you go much further, can you explain to the crowd, especially those who are not knowledgeable about the particulars of Pennsylvania, could you explain to people how Pennsylvania is kind of special in a certain way in terms of you got to fight really hard on the Democratic side?
Well, yeah, especially in Fayette County, in our county, a lot of counties.
Southwest corner.
Yeah, well, Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, which is north of us, that's pretty much a blue area. But a lot of the rural areas in Fayette County are red. We're lucky enough in Pennsylvania right now to have a Democratic governor. And we have Democratic control of the Senate, I think the Senate or the House of Representatives for the state. But it's like every other state in the country, the Democrats really have to fight for the rights of the people, because we really, and I hope I'm not offending people by talking about politics, but that's one of the main areas I'm active in. But we certainly don't want Pennsylvania to turn into, for example, another Florida right now. So you have to be on your toes all the time. So those are the things that I've been involved with. I'm going to tell a story at the end of this presentation about this guy that's running for county commissioner and me. But one of the things that I wanted to do in this program was talk about some of the authors and activists who've really influenced me, because my understanding was from the show that we had, that Rick had last show or show before, there were a lot of people saying things like, well, I'm not sure what to do, or what can I do to be involved, those kinds of things. So that's why I wanted to turn this into talking about some of the things that have influenced me, to give you some ideas, some things to read and think about if you're not sure if you want to become involved. This will give you some idea about how you can do that. And it's not just getting involved in a group. You know, there are things that we can do in our everyday life, as you know, by being kind, that make a difference. So the first author that I wanted to talk about is a guy named Charles Eisenstein. I don't know if any of you have heard of him or not before. He's written a number of books. Rick's really always points out that we were lucky enough to meet him years ago when we were all doing yoga together in Pittsburgh, but that's been a long time ago. He's been very, very prolific since then. The book that I'm going to talk about is called The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible. How could you not fall in love with a book with titled that? And the whole book is like that. He's very active speaking and working on projects around the world. He is the personification of a very kind person and a very, very creative thinker. And he does films and programs and presentations and all over the place in addition to writing. But I know that Rick's putting up some of the references that I talk about here. I wanted to read a quote from his book to give you just a flavor of that. He says, as we awaken to the interconnectedness of all our systems, we see we cannot change, for example, our energy technologies without changing the economic systems that support them. We learn as well that all our external institutions reflect our basic perceptions of the world, our invisible ideologies and belief systems. In that sense, we can say that the ecological crisis, like all our crises, is a spiritual crisis. By that, I mean that it goes all the way to the bottom, encompassing all aspects of humanity. So the way the book is set up is he has a series of short essays on different topics, and they're mostly stories about Charles and others, showing the many ways and the many levels that being kind and thoughtful can really have an effect through the world. And we may think that what we do are very simple and small acts. Any kind of these things that we do are ways of being and doing that have beneficial implications throughout our interconnected reality. And I was going to do a little piece on all of that, but I think maybe that should be a whole different subject about our interconnected reality, because I started getting really deep into the physics of stuff, and then I found myself really in the weeds. So, you know, if that's something you guys are interested in, maybe we can all do that another time.
Quantum weeds.
Yeah, the quantum weeds.
That sounds formidable. Good.
So the next person that I wanted to...
Sorry, can I interrupt for 1 second? I am
Sure.
sorry. Do you see Rick in the waiting room, Rick? He's texting me wanting to get in.
I don't see, no, I do not see that. Let me take care of that. I'm glad he did. Hold on.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay. I'll tell him to go out and come back in.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think there's a problem. Go out, come back in. I'll look for him.
Okay. Okay.
Please put the names in chat. Here he goes. Got you now, Rick. Put the names in chat. I can't, all you got to do is click on chat, John, you'll see everybody's name. We should have Rick by now.
Names of the three authors that you met, Chris Hedges and two others.
Oh, okay. I'll take care of that. Oh, there's Rick. Welcome aboard.
Hi, Rick.
And here's Uma. And she's, okay, go ahead. You're on the air.
Okay.
And I'll put those in there for you, John. Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next person that I wanted to talk about is Rebecca Solnit, Solnit, in case you haven't heard of her. She's been an activist and writing for years and years. She started out mostly being an activist as an environmentalist, but gradually she started working in and writing about in other areas. So any social, political, environmental, and other kind of activism you could really think of. The third edition of her book, Hope in the Dark, was published in 2016. And I think she's an amazing writer. She writes with such passion and breadth and depth and very poetically about the causes that she's covered and about people who do this kind of work and who have done this through time. She talks about a lot of things that have happened in history. And one of the main things about her work is that, and this just really struck me and has been such a source of inspiration to me, is that she talks about how things grow from, and that we think, oh, all of a sudden there's this movement. But how did that movement start?
Right.
How did Occupy Wall Street start, or Me Too, or the Czechoslovakian Revolution? They started with the actions of probably one, or at the most, a very few people. Like it's a small example, but me saying to my friend, "What do we do?" And he said, "We start a group." We have an organization that really makes a difference in our county now, but she's talking about movements that have, been worldwide.
Right.
And how, there could have been this woman one time, like 150 years ago, who did this one thing.
Right.
And whatever she was concerned about and fighting for blossomed from there. Kind of like the whole idea about the butterfly flapping its wings, and affecting the weather, across the planet. So that's another example of that kind of thing. So she's just a beautiful writer and very inspiring. And I wanted to share a quote with you that she has written related to what I've just been saying. She says, "We don't know what is going to happen, or how, or when. And that very uncertainty is the space of hope. Those who dismiss these moments because of their imperfections, limitations, or incompleteness need to look harder at what hope and joy shine out of them, and what real changes have emerged because of them, even if not always in the most obvious and recognizable ways." And another thing that she talked about that comes to mind is she said, when there was all the flooding in Louisiana, and all the levees broke and people were flooded and dying, she said, people just came out in their rowboats or whatever means they have, and they just started saving people. They just started doing it. In the beginning, there was no organization of that effort. They just did it. And she talks about things like that, which I think is very, very moving. So she's one who really does inspire me to get up off my ass and do something, even if I don't feel like it. So I think you might appreciate her too. The next person is, and his work is Chris Hedges. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him.
He's on MSNBC sometimes.
Yeah, I'm so glad I'm introducing you all to these people, because I think you're just gonna be so inspired by them. Chris Hedges, what I'm going to interview to you or read to you is, I think I have something from him. Maybe I didn't quote him, but the book that I'm going to talk to you about is it's actually in book form, an interview that he did called Unspeakable. And it's just so powerful what he writes about. He graduated from Colgate University and Harvard Divinity School in the 70s. He continues his career as a journalist. He has a website and a radio show, as well as pastoring a Presbyterian church and teaching writing to prison inmates. And he talks about all these things in the interview. Most of his career, he has been writing for different news outlets, including the New York Times for a long time, until they fired him because he spoke the truth, and it wasn't something that they really wanted him to do. So that's why he has his own broadcast and his own outlets now. If you read the book, you'll find that no matter how inconvenient or unpopular the truth is, it's much to the chagrin of governments, corporations, and media. He speaks out for the people. Always, he's on the side of the underdog and people who are suffering, and his work is very, very powerful.
One of the beautiful things about astrology is I knew Chris Hedges was a Virgo. Virgos don't like to speak out. They're known for being in the background. They don't like the limelight. But he's brilliant. And I was telling Liza about this, that this guy stands out. His brilliance is so strong that he's still going to make waves if he has to. And I told her this has to be because he's a Virgo. His sun must be connected with Eris. And Eris, we know, is in late Aries for about all people our age. And then we look into the ephemeris, and there's his sun right opposite Eris. Okay. So what I'm saying to you is a lot of times when you hear these people talk, it's not the person talking. It's the archetypal energy. It's that big of a deal. It's the archetypal energy being sent to us from the collective, from God, from whatever you want to call it. But this is why you can sit with somebody like Chris Hedges, and you can hear the Virgo-ness of his speech, but you can hear the power. The power knocks you over. When the power is knocking you over, it's not because the sun is in Virgo. Go ahead. It's my 2 cents.
No, well, you can sense his power when you read this interview.
What I'm saying about Eris is the power of Eris is I'm not listening to this anymore. We're going to say what we got to say. We're going to say the truth. You were talking about he get fired from the New York Times for speaking the truth. And that is an Arisian power. A typical Virgo is going to back down. Don't want to make waves. That's why I knew something was cooking with him. And thank God he's got that power. So we'll get more into Eris as the evening goes on. Go ahead, dear.
Well, if you read the transcript of the interview or listen to it, and you hear about his experiences in war zones all over the world, you'll know that those aspects have to do with huge amount of courage and bravery. It's a wonder he made it out alive. It truly is. But he's that committed, and with his father was a minister as well, and that's what caused him to go into the ministry. And I'd give anything to go visit his church and sit and listen to one of his sermons. Probably have to scrape me off the pew, really. So anyway, those are the three books and examples of people that I really wanted to share with you, because I think that you would all become inspired, and we don't want to forget, as Rick said, the astrology of the situation. I mean, if you really aren't involved in something that's important to you, that you feel is making a difference, and you're not sure what way to go, one way to get some ideas about that is to look at your chart, or have Rick talk with you about your chart.
And that's one reason that I'm the way I am, is I have Jupiter at 6 degrees of Aries and Eris is 6 degrees of Aries. They're both at the same position. I can't stop it. It's not a typical double Capricorn, the kind of stuff I've been ranting and raving about for 7 years. That's not a double Capricorn talking. That's Eris talking. And Eris, and you saw when Deborah was with us earlier, she's a Taurus, and she's typically not a Taurus. She's very Arisian. But when you feel that Eris from somebody, you feel the good and bad. The good is you feel like they're going to knock down statues, they're going to knock down buildings, get out of the way because we're not stopping. Here we come with what's right and what's true. The negative side is what we've seen so much of with the Trumpers, and with they're using the negative side of Eris, which is Eris says, I will knock down anything I have to get what we need. But it's all based on, are you really based in your heart altruistically for the benefit of all or not? That's the difference. And one of the things we're going to see tonight, and I want to talk about, this came to me late. We're not farting around right now. We're not just sitting around as a bunch of little individuals voting for this and turning on this program and turning on this program. There are powerhouses everywhere we look. There are just these powerhouse people. And maybe they're going to light a great big fire next to us. Maybe our fire is not quite as big, but it's happening. So if you are scared and if you are worried, because there are plenty of things to be worried and scared about, there's also this very big, huge, positive atomic bomb of positive energy going on too. And I wouldn't want to stand in its way. Okay, Deborah, that all three of those authors are on Facebook. Thank you very much for that. But I wanted to mention that, and we can put that seed in our discussion for tonight, because it's not just us, it's in the collective now. These movements are picking us up and enthralling us and moving us forward from the collective. Thank God.
Are you guys feeling that, what Rick's talking about?
You should be feeling it.
Yeah.
I'm feeling it everywhere. Deborah says, so is Heather Cox. Oh, Heather Cox Richardson is just wonderful to us on Facebook, who has a, what did she say? Who has a forthcoming book called Democracy Awakening. Heather and Rebecca are good friends. Thank you very much for that.
Good.
Deborah, did you have more there?
Yeah.
You gotta move the cat.
Yeah, the cat's sitting on my clipboard. I have one more story to tell. This is about
By the way, when this is all done, I will post this entire discussion onto my mailing list. I will mail this entire text to you tonight.
okay. The guy I was talking to you about who's running for county commissioner that I'm supporting.
All right.
I'm probably going to just read this because I wrote it out in a way that makes sense. So last April, I was at a petition signing event with my friend, who I'll call Jeff, who is collecting signatures to get on the ballot for county commissioner in the upcoming primary. I'm excited about the prospect of Jeff becoming a county commissioner because of his values and intelligence and expertise. So we were sitting at this table talking, and I was telling Jeff that I was sorry that my friend John wouldn't be able to come to the petition signing that night, because I thought that they would have had a lot to talk about. And I explained to Jeff that John and I had become friends in the mid-'80s through a project we'd both been part of. I told Jeff about the community we'd been helping to build under the auspices of a foundation from New York State. The vision was that the homes would be energy efficient and use solar energy. The solar community center and the sewage treatment plant were already built by the early on in the project. There were prospects for various home-based businesses that would go a long way toward making the community economically self-sufficient as well, and ample space for growing food. So unfortunately, the project never came to fruition as we had hoped. One of the main reasons for this was that the county government and agencies really never supported the idea. And I'm sure it just sounded pretty scary and communistic to them.
Yeah.
But they found ways to delay it or stop progress altogether. At this point, there are numerous houses on the site, but the community center was torn down years ago, and it just looks pretty much and is pretty much like your average housing development. But anyway, after I was sharing this story with Jeff about what John and I had been involved with years ago, he asked for the location of that village. And when I told him, his eyes got really big. And he said that when he was about 9 years old, he had neighbors, he lived in a town nearby. He had neighbors who were considering building there, and they took him along for a visit when he was a little boy. He told me that at that time he had become so excited about all of the ideas, the solar energy and the gardens and community life. And he said to me, sitting there at that table a couple months ago, he said, visiting that village changed my life. So that experience helped shape the values and vision that he brings now to the work he wants to do as county commissioner. And I had always thought that the work that John and I had done back then had been for naught, and it was forgotten. But that has not been the case. I could not have been more validated about John's telling me how that childhood visit changed his life. And that's a beautiful example, I think, of what we were talking about earlier, about how we just never know the fruit that our actions will bear in the future. So.
Good. And I'm encouraging you too, because this show, for example, I started teaching astrology a long time ago, but in Pittsburgh about 20 years ago, and about 7 years ago, one of my students said, why don't you start making videos? So I started making a few videos here and there. This was before we named the thing Unplugged. But the point is, I don't think we've knocked astrology on its ear with this show, but we're here on show number 325 tonight, and we've had a lot of guests on many different subjects. And the point is that I think you can come to us as a center with me and Rick here and Claudia, etc., and you're going to get pretty much a truth dipping. And Liza, you're going to find out this is not just junky astrology. You're going to find out what is real astrology here. Not that we're the best in the world, but you can come and kind of use this as a litmus test. And the point is that you see how the show itself is changing by its own nature. And the point here is to encourage all of you, because you all have such marvelous talents. When I do readings with any one of you, I'm sitting there with my mouth open at all the different varied, wonderful, beautiful talents that you each have. And they're all very similar with the same kind of traits wrapped in kindness and the goodness that that Liza's talking about. So my 2 cents tonight is, tonight and every night, I'm going to inspire you and get behind you and push you and tell you, don't listen to these people that are negating you. Don't listen to these people that are turning you off for whatever reason that they have. Turn it on, turn it up. You know, if you start running into walls, you'll know it. If you start doing something illegal, you'll know it. But you have tremendous power behind you with the Holy Spirit and with the collective. End of rant.
Well,
You have to continue because it's your show.
oh, No, well, I think it is time to open up the show to hear what everybody else has to say and about what they're doing.
Amy said that some of us have a little more firecracker and spice than others. I think because she said that, we should make her talk next. Okay, you're on, Amy. Let's hear from you. What are your ideas? Well, my point is that this negative energy that we're feeling is real. It is really scary. We are close to the end. We're also close to a brand new beginning. And it's real. And you got to have a courageous heart to get involved in it. You just do. And that's what we're here for. Amy, what's on your mind? We don't see you all the time. What have you been thinking?
I'm just thinking that we just all need to be a beacon of light in our own special way. Like you were talking about all our own diverse gifts. I was talking to Claudia recently about like the air in my chart. I'm more air, so communication for me, or just planting seeds here and there for people to ponder whichever way they end up going, but to get them to start. Some people are still not critically thinking, and so that also leaves them just like, I'm just going to do whatever I'm being told instead of going, no, this isn't right, or maybe I should actually be proactive before it actually affects me. There's so many people that have the mentality of, this is not going to affect me, and like, oh, what's happening here or there in this state, and it's like, but it can come to your door before you know it, and then all of a sudden it's too late for you to do anything about it. So I'm just kind of the person that will say things here and there, plant seeds, and people are going to do whatever they're going to do with it. And I just feel like I've said my part, and whatever that may be at the moment, like Liza was talking about when she was talking about the hospice care, like it just comes to me and I just say, it flows through me, and whatever it is I'm supposed to say, I might be the person that triggers somebody, but it may get them to contemplate something that they haven't thought about, or vice versa. So I don't know, devil's advocate kind of, person, but again, shining my light and being who I am and speaking my truth. And as we all know, this time is about every voice being heard and no one being left behind.
Yes.
So
And also, let me add to that.
sure.
Somebody told me in 1971, you're not very creative, Rick. 25 movies later, 325 shows later, what I'm saying is, don't let people affect you if it's very hard to find a good special astrologer, but bring to us what's rattling around in your head. If an astrologer told you some junk in 1979 and 1990, it's like a curse. You got this curse sitting in your chart that's always going to be there. At least bring it to us. We that have seen thousands of charts. Bring to us and explain what you think that person meant. They're usually real wrong. And let us disassemble it. Or the worst we can do is say, I don't know. But if you should be concentrating very much on what you think you know about your chart, which is probably very little, what you think you've been told by people.
Yep.
Because all in all, when you really get down to it, charts are very good things. A chart is a map of your beauty as an organic whole. It's awesome. It's awesomely powerful. And most people don't have any idea how to touch it or deal with it because it's so vibrant. At least come to us and let's talk about it. You have an outlet here. You have a safety mechanism. And I think that's really ultra valuable.
Totally agree.
So
That and self-worth. People have to know their self-worth during these times, or they're just not going to get through it. And I don't know. I that's another part to me is my chart may say this, I don't know. But I'm just very resilient and I can get through anything I've been through. I mean, we've all been through a lot of stuff over the course of our lives, but I'm just the person that's like, I can get through anything. And my resilience also kind of rubs off on certain people, like, world's not ending, we're creating a new, again, planting the seeds of, yes, all these old structures are crumbling and whatever, and it may look scary for a hot minute, and it might actually be scary, but you have to know what you're worth and what you're capable of, and believe in yourself, and of course the community that like you've built here. So that's
And what are you Cancer people here at your very basis from our book? What are Cancers here to do? What's the basis of a Cancer? To lead people emotionally, to make people feel okay. So how you feel is okay. That's their basis. That's their strength. And I'm sure if you hang out with Amy, you're going to get that. So we each all have our strengths. We all have our strength, and we need to really put it forth. That's one good thing about this group, is it never gets much bigger and it doesn't get much smaller. It pretty much stays around 9, 10 people every week, and it gives us a lot of times to talk. What else? Thank you very much, Amy. What else everybody got to say about these thoughts? Hey, Paula, you weird people out there in Arizona, what do you guys think when you tune into this show?
Well, I'd like to say one thing too. Paula can contribute some things about some volunteer work and stuff that she does in her community.
They're childhood friends.
Yeah.
Paula, what's on your mind? You are muted. You are muted. You will need to unmute yourself. There you are.
I just kind of listen and take it in and try to process it. And some things I probably understand and some things I don't understand, but I just like listening to what everybody has to say and keeps my mind going.
Paula, what's the board that you sit on, the local community youth?
Oh, it's called a Community Justice Board.
Yeah.
It's run by our county attorney's office, and it's there's not many in the country, but it's for it was started by a previous county attorney, and it's for youth from, we've had kids at 8 and it ends when they turn 18 who have committed misdemeanors, and it's things like say stealing from a convenience store, or getting caught at a party smoking or driving or in a park or places, and all different misdemeanors. We've even had parents report on their own kids or defacing property. And the idea is to, it has a really, there used to be about a dozen boards in town, not quite as many. It's just really coming back from COVID. And the idea is to nip it in the bud before they get any worse and go on to things. And we have them for 3 months, and we the first meeting is an hour and you get to know them, and a lot of it's a restorative justice program, so we give them different activities related, some to what they did or what their career. A lot of it, we don't always dwell on the crime itself, but things to build them up.
Right.
Maybe doing a college plan or a financial plan, or peer writing what you would do in certain situations. And it has about a 98% success rate. So it's
That's
really,
really good.
yeah, it's really
great. What
program.
another good example?
Another good example.
That was I want to just thank you and move on.
Yeah.
That was another good example. Thank you very much, Paula. I want to turn to our lawyer, to John, who has retired as a 300-year lawyer, and he's a poet, and he don't know it, and he's a mystic, and he does know it. John, what's on your mind, lady? What are you thinking of doing? What are you drumming up?
No, I was thinking about people making nasty comments to you. When I was in high school, I was traveling from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, and I sat next to this woman, and she was asking me questions, and I was saying, "Oh, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know." And she said to me, "You're not very curious." And that was like a knife in my heart. I had a very high IQ, but I was
Yeah.
so lazy, academically, and so boy, did I become curious. That was one of the best things ever happened to me when
Yeah.
someone made a comment like that.
That's right.
So that turned into kind of an Einstein, I became that curious. I wanted to know
Like
everything.
the woman who told me I was not creative.
Exactly. That's what
You're
made me.
exactly right. So what's on your mind? You got anything in your bucket here that you're gelling, trying to form?
I like to write, and so I am a retired lawyer, but I do volunteer at the city mission in Washington, PA. And I am so blown away by this program. These are people coming across the street from the jail. They have nothing,
Really?
nothing. And this place picks them up and they teach them how to, uh, you know, apply for jobs and do a lot of good things. So, I looked at the city mission and I said, I want to write your story. And so
Yeah.
one of the people there who's in charge says, boy, that's awesome. So I'm working on writing the story of the city mission. So I'm
There
going,
you go, John. Good
I'm-
idea.
I'm going everywhere where I can find information about how it started and what really makes people do these things. So that's very exciting. So
Very good idea.
like
Okay.
I think Chris Hedges is one of my idols.
Yeah,
Oh, man, yeah.
he's a powerhouse. He's a
So-
great one. Thank you. And thank you, John. I want to move now to Rick, because Rick's a man of 7 billion ideas, including at his church. What's going on in your head beside just astrology, Rick?
Well, healing is always a number one undercurrent. So I do a lot of things with that intent. So whether I'm selling crystals, I'm usually teaching about healing, and with that, boundaries and mental health issues. And even in my tarot reading, I'm introducing people to the journey of the dark night of the soul, or the hero's journey, really getting into shadowy stuff, but just snippets so that they can start to think slowly about it and not traumatize them. And on the side of church, I have been working since 2018 with moving within an effort that the denomination is making to tackle equality for people and dismantling white supremacy, which is a huge dragon to slay. We are a denomination of only 1,020 congregations and organizations across the nation, and that's not a lot to be working on. But many adults have had children that grew up in the church and left, and now they're all looking back saying, we're watching what you're doing here. And when you get it figured out how to go ahead and mobilize people, we're thinking about taking that on and bringing it to our church, which is a beautiful thing to hear. And then on the personal side, because of the way suicide has touched my life, I have looked at all the people we do work for, and so many of our clients are women, but I've been trying to reach out to men and help share and teach the values, benefits, and tools of emotional literacy so that men can begin to talk about their stuff and hold space for other men so that they can help others, and everyone together can stem the tide of male suicide that is about 75% of all suicides.
Well, Rick, when you mentioned just something just there, it really tied me to John sitting next to you on the screen from Columbus when you talked about emotional literacy. I saw the light bulb. I know John real well. Let's get John unmuted. Thank you, Rick. That's great. The reason I'm making this link here is John is an educator. He's a doctor of education. and he's an educator in Columbus, who's about to do, I don't know, swan dives off the side of the aircraft carrier or whatever. What does that mean to you when he said emotional literacy? What does that mean to you?
Well, emotional, and hi everybody. Hi Rick, hi Liza. Emotional literacy means being aware of your emotions, being aware of your feelings. Most of us are not aware in our society. We react to everything. And then when we have the media, Fox News and everybody pushing our buttons, oh, be mad, immigrants are coming, women are aborting their babies, different things like that. They're getting you so worked up in a froth that you're like,
Build the wall, build the wall, build the
yeah,
wall.
exactly. Yeah, what Trump said. So all these things get people riled up and angry. Nobody actually stops to look and see how they feel. Why am I feeling this way? Where is this coming from? So emotional literacy is being literally aware of your emotions, being able to understand when you're manipulated, being in relationship with your own values, how you feel about things, understanding, I shouldn't get mad about this. This actually doesn't, not taking on others' feelings. You may walk into a room full of angry people. Do you automatically become angry just because anger is in the air? Do you say, wait, these people are angry. This has nothing to do with me. I'm in my own state. If anything, maybe I'm projecting love out to them because I'm in this state of awareness and I can put that out there and maybe get them to calm down, you know?
See, that's a part of this Eris thing. If you've noticed this junk that's going around on Facebook where they're busy interviewing Trump supporters to show how stupid they are. And these people are volatile. They're ready to explode. They're ready for a fight. And we don't even know what the word is we're talking about. And everything's just so volatile and ready. So you can see how that is the part or a part of Eris's readiness with power by being used wrong.
Absolutely.
So I would imagine, John, with you being in so many schools, that you've seen clearly how we've been raised through so many schools without any emotional awareness.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's only come about really within the past several years. And
What have we been doing? What have we been doing?
you didn't educate. Like, I mean, I've been through all kinds of teacher training, administrative training, never had a drop of emotional intelligence training up until 2018. And this was something I went outside of education in the traditional sense to experience myself. So it's out there, but it's been very isolated. It's only really been since the pandemic that I think people realize there's
Well,
another.
John, as a really good, you're a good astrologer too.
Thanks to you, Rick.
What planets or combination gave us this in 2018? What planet rising has been given us this consciousness of emotional readiness or ripeness or literacy?
I'm with you. I believe Eris has a lot to do with it. I believe
think so?
Chiron also has had a lot to do with it.
What's that?
Chiron.
Chiron, yeah.
Chiron, yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah, but Eris definitely. I think Eris, and then we had the Eris Uranus conjunction, I think in 2016, 2017. It seems that it spurred this. It reached a critical mass in the pandemic 2020, 2021, but I think it had roots back with Eris moving into a space.
That's a very good comment. Yes, very much. Thank you very much, John. Speaking of educators, thank you. She always comes on at just exactly the right time. Where's my kitty cat? There he is. Okay, Linda is the professor at La Roche University. Let's ask her to unmute herself and see what's stirring in you, because I know you're a Libra, you're an idea leader, teaching people how to think. Astrology is not complex, based on 2 words, idea, leader. What does that inspire you to do, since you are an idea leader?
Oh, one of my students said this today. They're writing papers. They're freshmen. They were like a semester behind because they had to take a a preliminary class before they could take composition, and now they're doing their research paper, and one of the kids is writing a paper about habits and is reading all this psychology stuff, and we were talking about, I said, well, who's this paper for? You know, are you writing for people to change their habits, or what are you doing? And I said, and he said, well, he wants it for people who want to help other people change their habits. And I said, well, who would that be? And one of his the person sitting next to him and said, well, that's you. You're always trying to get us to change our habits. And I said, yeah, that's true. I mean, I want them, I want them to wake up. I mean, the word woke is not, has been misappropriated in so many ways, but I don't want them to be just moving through life asleep.
Asleep, right?
I don't want them to be asleep. I want them to be awake. I want them to question and be curious and criticize things. I want them to understand that they have a voice, you know, like they have to make an argument. They have to see where their thoughts fit in with other people and how much sense, you know, that other people are making about something. So
I
that's,
have done surveys in the past on different platforms. And do you know the two most popular signs with the masses are Geminis and Libras? Now, I don't agree with that choice myself, but I understand it. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Ask yourself, what do Gemini people have and Libra people have lots of that other people don't? They got this alertness. They get this mental talkativeness. They exchange. They communicate. Maybe it isn't the kind of talk you want to hear about, but that is true about those two signs. People want to exchange ideas.
well, I always think about,
I've seen Libras get so excited about discussions.
oh, I mean, like I nearly lost my mind 3 times. I just got out of class. We're not, I tried to be done by 8:30, but we're never done at 8:30. But, you know, but I was thinking about Geminis, because Geminis aren't my favorite, you know, they're kind of, you know, flaky. I don't know. But
airy.
yeah, but then I think Paul McCartney. I think Paul McCartney's a Gemini,
McCartney's amazing.
you know, and
Dylan.
yeah, so there you go. So I mean, that's how I look at it. I had like
Yeah.
8 kids in class tonight, and you know, we're talking about mystery stories and what makes a mystery story. And
Oh, well, thank you, Linda. Let's let you catch your breath now. McCartney is a Gemini, Leo. That's what McCartney is. Thank you, Linda. Sean, what you're the master of the group here, being the old soul Pisces. What does all this stuff make you think of?
I mean, which part? You guys said a whole lot, you know. There's a
I
lot
don't
of
care,
different
whatever
angles.
part you want to talk about.
I'm just taking in all the wisdom, but something I heard you mention was how the planets, if you ask, do we see how the planets are acting out or something?
Right.
Yeah, I see that a lot, you know, but I recently start, you know, looking at it straight up like it's the planets acting up, you know. But I see it in people, you know, like some people who you really know. And then the way how they act a certain time or they come at you, there's no way that's them. And you know something that you did personally that triggered that out of them. That's how I know it's got to be the planets, you know, because I use myself as an example. Yeah.
Exactly. And you are correct. McCartney is all Gemini with a bunch of Leo together, those two energies. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, that's really it, you know, just seeing,
So what do you
just paying
say?
a lot of attention.
Being the
Mhm.
master of the collective, that's what Pisces is.
Yeah,
The master of the collective. They don't necessarily have the ability to put it into words, but they can feel it. They can feel what the collective is feeling. What are you sensing is really going on now?
Hold on a second. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, what are you sensing is going on in the collective body now with people?
Yeah, sorry about that. I was just connecting my Bluetooth. I mean, I sense a lot, I sense something definitely in the air, I feel a change coming up. I feel a heat. A lot of times, honestly, I feel like I have a big role to play in what's going on. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I feel like
Yeah.
whatever I offer, that's what I'm here. We are all here to offer some type of energy that can create a certain healing that needs to be created. You understand? And I'm just playing my role in that. Like every single soul that I come across, I hit them with something they didn't expect to hear. Hey, how you doing? I'm doing amazing. How you doing? Amazing. And then their eyes open up like, did he really just say that? It kind of triggers something inside of the
I
soul.
wonder what would happen if I were walking down the alley and ran into this group all at once. Woo! I'm not sure what would happen. Rick, what do you think?
I think it would be
Amazing.
an amazing visit. We'd get tired standing there on the street. We'd have to go somewhere and
Local cafe.
yeah,
Yeah.
take over a place.
Oh, Diane is here. Let's work and see you now. Thank you, Rick. Diane, what's on your mind?
Well, I think I mentioned this a couple shows ago. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a psychotherapist, and what I'm seeing is people being confronted so strongly and directly with the things that aren't working for them and haven't worked for them, made patterns. And so, that's really gratifying actually to me. I was thinking as I was listening to people talk, how much I incorporate spirituality, not even necessarily obviously, but I guess it comes back to a lot of personal responsibility. Yeah, that's probably one of the big things.
Amy says Pluto taking him for a ride. Exactly.
Yeah. And I really live my life. So I am actually an ordained minister in something called the Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness. I have been for, I think 28 years actually. And so I just operate as always trying to be light and love wherever I am, in whatever situation. And so I'm not particularly scared, but I feel like I can help bring some positivity, into situations where people are scared or confused or whatever.
Thank you, Diane. That was really good. I want to hear from Uncle Sigmund here. I don't know why I call him Uncle, but I do. And that's just the way it's going to go. Uncle Sigmund has a lot of wisdom. What are you sensing going on in the big collective there, Sig?
Well, sometimes it lets me know what's going on, and sometimes it doesn't seem to be available, although it could be at those times when it's clearly available, and I may not just be understanding that. But so I know that there's potential for lots of nasty stuff to be happening, some of which we've seen recently, and basically, for me, it's staying out of the fray, staying knowledgeable about the stuff that is important to me, but not beating myself with it or not immersing myself with it to the extent of that's now my vibe. I want to really be separate from that. One of the good things about the news is that if I tune in once for a few minutes, that's what's going on in the day, and everything else is just repeating that or speculation about some aspect of that, or speculation about what's going to be happening, what might be happening. So I don't need all that. I'm more concerned about what is. And if there's anything I can do, en route to that, then, I'll be there to get that piece of information.
Well, one thing
What-
I'm interested with you, I like how you take the Virgo stance of being kind of removed from what's being fed to you, almost an aloofness. And I like that because it's taking personal ego away from it and you're getting distilled versions of just true information. One thing I'm real interested with you is I know you and your wife Suzanne have spent a lot of years following an entity called Samuel, right? Now, I know you can't put Samuel into 5-10 words here. And I know you interact with him all the time. What is he saying to you, his crowd? What is he telling us about what's happening now?
Well, it's interesting that you should say that, because anyone who wants to know, Samuel's is a Celtic being from the Celtic times, who is no longer incarnate, but who channels through a woman in Lexington, Kentucky,
Oh,
who, and this has been going on for probably 30 years. And he's saying that this month is really very powerful, with a lot of stuff happening, and that he's going to be hosting. Usually, he hosts first Sunday, and that's streamed. And this month, he said, because of what's going on, he's going to be hosting 3 Saturdays, including this coming Saturday. And I guess people can get into that. Discoversamuel.com. There's offhand, there should be a link to sign. Yes, there is a sign up for the mailing list, get the link, the date and the time, hot stuff.
what is he saying is happening?
Well,
What is happening?
as it happens, I have notes from this past first Sunday. I'll just read some of them out loud.
Yeah, that'd be great.
He says, "Don't let stress turn to overwhelm, or overwhelm turn into blockages." He says, "Figure out what we want, what we need, sometimes by what we don't want and don't need. Is this a life I want to be leading? Is this the direction I want to be going?" And he says, "This is the month in which mass consciousness in the world will be feeling the energy we've been feeling these past 3 years. By the end of the month, we'll work out what needs to be and to finish our unfinished work. This is our time to help, to serve. When the purpose of energy changes because there are more receptive energies for it, it's fine tuning and a very obvious difference to those who are tuned into it." And let me see some other stuff. There's a quick exercise to tune into the energy is focus on our heartbeat so that we can feel our pulse simply by quieting down in such a way that we can feel the blood move through our bodies. That will go more and more quickly the more we do it. And he says, take a deep breath and hold it in our mouth, puff out your cheeks, so that we put pressure in our mouth. We can feel it in the center of our face and hold it until we feel it in the center of our body. He says, that's it. That resets the peripheral nervous system. It's a quick reset. So there's that. Let me see what else is pertinent. What's happening in the world is that now a filter has been over mass consciousness, is being peeled away. That peeling away is a process that will allow the buildup of energy to push forward, so we'll be feeling the fullness of it. And he says there's that one of the things that will come out of this is chaos, which he's a big fan of. He says creation, he says chaos is creation force energy, and we are creators. It's our time to set up the world. Through chaos, we'll get our new circumstances. The world is doing this, though it doesn't have a focus, so constructs are breaking down, and it seems like too much with no control. Chaos is a sign that the universe is on our side and that we're in a place to make decisions about what we want and how to get to it. First couple of weeks.
What
Go
is the
ahead.
planet of chaos?
I beg- I didn't catch what you said, Rick.
What is the planet of chaos? Eris.
Eros.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
that's it.
Sigmund. Very good. We're running out of time here. Sean has his hand. Thank you, Sigmund. Sean has his hand raised.
No, I was gonna, right before I raised, right after I raised my hand, what I was gonna transmit, he pretty much said it. So pretty much right now, what's going on, everything that's hidden is coming to the forefront. You know, like look at God like a frequency. You know, right now we all collectively are getting tuned to that frequency. We are now realizing it's something we could just tune our channels to. And
Diane?
it's revealing certain layers, as he just mentioned just now.
Okay, thank you. Diane has her hand raised.
So I just wanted to tag on to Sigmund a little bit. Sigmund, I didn't realize that you were part of the Samuel community. I also participate in a lot of those things too. And just in general, Samuel is saying that there are a lot of people on the planet today that are here to help through this transition of, I think, what he calls from third density to fifth density. So the energy of the planet is changing, it's raising. And this is the time, he's often said, this is the time you've come here for. It's now, it's happening. And July, this month is supposed to be very pivotal in a lot of that energy reaching everybody, not just the people he's been working with.
Thank you very much. Very good. Rick's got his hand raised.
Yeah, you asked about a planet bringing things about, and I think that there's so much that we need brought about, and everybody's dealing with different things. One of the things that I see is really nudging humanity are the moon phases, because it's monthly taking people through something different. What do you need to wake up this month? What do you need to put to bed? What's wrapping up? What's starting anew? Keeping fresh. And the more I see it is felt differently through a division of people who are responsibly facing themselves and dealing with their stuff, and those who are not. The ones who do get on a lot easier, and the ones who don't face it experience accidents, frustration, confusion, those full moon things that you see being the negative side. And it seems to be gearing up so that every month humanity's growing at a different more and more. And I think that our collective has been helping to make that happen. We're releasing more people to do their own work and stuff. Those are my thoughts, because I approach astrology from a spiritual perspective, and I think that's
Well, I think you're right, but it's obvious we're encountering a lot of global foot dragging.
Sure.
We're seeing a lot of it, and it's causing a lot of bruised heels. It's causing a lot of friction. Where do you think that's leading?
Well, division will create a catalyst, and the people that want to heal are going to be faced with, it is your choice. You know, I go back to my original training, two things that always said: know thyself, and character is destiny. If we can go ahead and live by those maxims through astrology, I think we tend to sit in the camp of those who are helping make a difference.
Thank you, Liza. has her hand
Well,
up.
Just that, we've been talking about chaos and the potential of chaos for good. And there wouldn't be chaos if we didn't have all of these different factions sorting this out. So, all of the negative energy is coming to the surface now, so we can deal with that.
We have Deborah got her hand raised. Go ahead, Deborah, you're muted. You are muted. Now you're not.
I have a question because I'm here more about the archetypal energy, and I don't know a lot about astrology per se, but Uranus is going to be in Taurus for another 2 years. It's not leaving till 26. That much I know. Is it going to build up energy and bring us to any kind of a crescendo sometime between now and 2026?
Oh yeah, of course it will. I mean, Uranus is the planet you can't put is at the beginning of any sentence because it's the one who doesn't even know what it's going to do. It's the unpredictable energy, and it's been strange the whole time, 5 years already, being in a static sign like Taurus. Uranus doesn't want to be static, and it's been forced to be rather static in Taurus. And what you get with that is you get a buildup. You get a buildup
That's
leading
what I'm thinking.
exactly to what you're saying. And I don't know about you guys, but when I envision Uranus going to Gemini, all hell's going to break loose. I mean,
Yeah, probably.
it doesn't mean riots in the streets, but you got to remember the planets are smart. This is the hard part of astrology. What's Uranus been doing in Taurus? It's not wasting its time. It's gelling the stuff of people, the substance of people, the values of people, the internalisms of people. But what do you think it's going to do when it hits Gemini? It's going to tell everybody. It can't keep its mouth shut. It's just going to go nuts. You're going to see tons of new committees and new groups like this forming and wanting to talk and discuss. And it's going to be a little crazy for a while because Gemini is kind of a scattered energy. It is going to be kind of crazy, yes. You're going to have all kind of books and off the wall movies coming out because Uranus is always the weird and the novel and the exception. So you're exactly right. It's had no choice but to build up power condensed in Taurus, and it's not going to come out all at once. It's not going to come at once, but you're going to feel several major explosions as it hits Gemini and Gemini things, discussions, talking, nervous systems, schools, education. Does that answer your question? Yeah, I think that's what it's going to
Yes,
be.
yes, it does. Thanks.
I think that's what we're going to see. John S., what do you see with Uranus finally getting out of your sign and going on into Gemini?
Yeah, I think, well, a lot of, I think what's been going on with Uranus and Taurus is also the whole crypto scheme, a lot of the,
Crypto, yeah.
emphasis on alternative currencies. I think in Gemini, I agree, it will be a lot of meetings, communication, new ideas, and I think it's going to really pull forward the Aquarius energy too, with Pluto being
Right.
in Aquarius
Right.
now. We're going to see
Right.
a lot more social movements, activism, groups, new ideas. Capricorn has really been pulling us back into the past, and this is where we've seen all the extreme reactionary conservatism. I'm not saying it's going to all be liberal, but I do think there will be a lot more openness to ideas and communication. And Gemini is ideas, communication. Gemini will talk about everything, won't go necessarily that deep into it, and will share. And there will be a lot of that. So lots of communication, lots of new ideas. that could feed into some of the beautiful energy that is coming in. We have Uranus
And-
going into Gemini
and-
itself in a
And
couple of
poor old Capricorn, the one energy that's just trying to keep us all together somehow. Just kind of like the big ice ring around us is just going,
making sure, Rick.
it's
Making
just
sure.
trying to keep it together. And we don't even know what would happen if it would stop. If it would stop doing, what the hell would happen then? But we're going to get a lot of that in Gemini. What did
Oh,
you
yeah.
say? What did you say was next?
Uranus is going to go into Gemini itself here in a
Yeah,
couple.
Uranus, and that's what we're talking about. Uranus,
Yeah,
in
so
Gemini,
Jupiter's going into
Pluto
Gemini.
into Aquarius.
Yes.
So there's a double air quality right there. You're
By
gonna-
2025, we're going to see a lot, basically a turnover in the energy, because right now we've had
Okay.
Pluto in Capricorn, we've got Neptune
Okay.
in Pisces, which is going into Aries, and we have Uranus in Taurus. So we're going to go from earth and water to air and fire.
You're going to see geniuses unlike you've ever seen.
Yeah, that's an air trine that we have actually. With the,
You're going to see people with mental abilities that you're not going to even believe.
I think we're going to see a lot
That's
of
going to be
breakthroughs.
shared amongst us too.
Oh yeah, lots of breakthroughs and ideas and sharing and technology. Big breakthroughs coming.
I
Rick,
think Uranus and Taurus is still codifying and waking people up with their values, and they're using their values for their arguments and their divisions.
And I think that Uranus and Taurus has been had an effect on the banking and the money systems in the world, and the invention of cryptocurrency, whatever that is, and all of those kinds of things, in addition to a lot of things having to do with the land and land use and kind of all kinds of weird things happening climate wise and with the earth and the natural world.
It's going to be wild, partners. Okay. It's not just the crypto stuff. I mean, the crypto is finally convincing us that money is just an idea. Money is just an idea. And what are we going to do? Look how much we let this one idea dominate us. And that means we're in for a big time revolution. Well, anyhow, I want to bring it to a close. It's been an excellent evening, as I would expect something else, such a great group. And I want to thank Liza for doing such a wonderful job. Just excellent, really good. And thank you all for keeping us going every week. We appreciate it. I don't know what next week will be, but I'm getting some hints and some hunches that it's going to have to do with the collective, because the collective is really shifting. I can feel it. And that's kind of my specialty, is keeping an eye on the collective, and it's very difficult. But anyhow, thank you all. I'll see you next week. In a couple hours, I'll put this up on YouTube, and I'll release through email a copy of her transcript from tonight. So thanks, everybody, very much.
Thank you.
And thank you to Liza as well.
Everybody.
Bye,
Bye,
Liza.
Paul.
Rick
Bye,
and Liza.
Paula.
Night, Rick.
Shelby says
Many
bye.
blessings.
For now.
Bye, Shelby. I got to turn the recording off.